the calves and the cowherd boys and putting them in a cave, coming back to see what Krishna would do, and then finding Krishna with the cowherd boys and the calves. Getting bewildered by that, and then going back to the cave, and they're in the cave, and then he went back and they're with Krishna having lunch. So then, because Brahma had the desire, a curiosity type desire, to see what's the limit of Krishna's mystic powers. And the answer is, there's no limit, and he saw it without the details, because you already know. And then he began offering prayers. And we are up to verse 36. The first 30 of those prayers deal with the opulences, the divinity, the transcendental power and expansions of the power of Krishna in different ways. Essentially, Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of the relationship of all things with the source of all things. Sambandha Gyan. Then, starting with text 31, through the next 10 verses, this is one of those. The sweetness aspect, because within Krishna is everything. It's not only opulences, but intimacy. Prabhupada gives the example of a high court judge. When the high court judge walks into the courtroom, what does everyone do? They stand, Your Honor, and then, okay, be seated, okay. Because it's the majesty aspect of the high court judge. But in his home, it's not like that. The children and the wife and the grandchildren and everybody, it's not majesty, it's intimacy. So these are aspects of Krishna also. The in Vrindavan is the intimacy aspect, the sweetness aspect. And Brahma is expressing his appreciation of that sweetness aspect, having thoroughly described his majesty aspect. So it begins with speaking of the mothers who for 1 month had Krishna as their son, and they directly breastfed Krishna for 1 month, and the cows that had the calves were Krishna for 1 month, 1 month of our solar time. And how fortunate are they? Then next speaking of Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd man, and all the other residents of Vrindavan, how fortunate are they? How much mercy are they receiving? Because they also have intimacy. Maitri is the word that's used, friendship. Different rasas, but an intimacy of friendship with Krishna. The next verse, 33, is describing by the mercy of those residents of Vrindavan, the demigods controlling the deities are getting mercy, because by their mercy we're also experiencing the sweetness of Krishna through their senses, as they are experiencing the fullness, because they have spiritual forms. We have material forms, but they're very merciful to us, and they're assisting us in that tasting the honey-like sweetness of Krishna's form. Then 34 is Brahma's expressing his bewilderment, that you have given yourself completely to Putana and gave liberation to the two brothers of Putana, when all she did was she just pretended to be a devotee. These residents of Vrindavan, they've given you everything, not just little Putana that dressed as a devotee. They've dedicated, so how are you going to repay them? And he's concluding, you're indebted to them. And because you're indebted to them and you've given them mercy, if I get their mercy, then I get your mercy. Very intelligent. So I want to, my prayer is to take birth as a blade of grass or whatever, some entity in Vrindavan, so the dust from the feet of these residents of Vrindavan can come upon my grass body or whatever it is. And by getting their mercy, I get your mercy, I get love like them, and a relationship with you that I don't have now as Lord Brahma, the chief personality in the whole universe, and so on. Now this verse, he's going the other direction. There are those persons that don't have that kind of shelter. And they should aspire for that kind of shelter, because if they do, they get freedom from the clutches of material existence. But if they don't, my dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and their desires remain thieves. Their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. Now we're going to read some commentaries, and in these commentaries it describes in detail the material entanglement that comes from attachment. And the other part is, if one becomes attached to you, then those very same objects of attachment become opportunities of service, and they're liberating. Such persons, devotees, these exalted devotees of Vrindavan, their world is paraphernalia for serving Krishna. The trees are desire trees, and they take whatever fruits and flowers and anything and offer to Krishna. It's not their homes, their children, their paraphernalia, their you name it. It's just opportunities for rendering service to Krishna. The stuff of this world is just something to be offered to Krishna. So here's Jiva Goswami. Krishna is considering, my dear Brahma, if the residents of Vrindavan have such glory that they have given everything to me, then you should go home and do the same thing. Brahma, let that be. By dedicating themselves fully to you, they are greater than the Atmaramas. Atmaramas are those who are satisfied within. More than satisfied within, they're in ecstasy from serving you, who are the source of all bliss. But it is difficult for people like me to surrender to you. With this intention, he speaks this verse. The meaning is this. In the verse, the word raga is used. Raga refers to attraction to objects. Adhayaha means by attaining or not attaining those objects of attraction, one experiences joy and sorrow. The house is such an object. Moha means lack of discrimination because of attachment to objects. Thus, raga, or attraction for objects, is mentioned first, since all the other items depend on it as a cause. You, as the Atma, are the natural and ultimate shelter of attraction, raga, for the soul having within it unconditional prema. In other words, at the soul level, it's already there. Prema is already there. Attraction for Krishna, attachment for Krishna love for Krishna, it's already there. It's already there. So for those where that prema is already there, unconditional prema is already there, you're the shelter. You're the object of attachment and attraction. You're the raga. This attraction, by not taking shelter of Krishna, wanders all around and takes away the ingredients of your worship, standing for so-called auspicious desires, like a thief, meaning material piety. People feel contented by material piety. Unfortunately, it takes away the attachment and attraction for the object. One is more concerned and filled with interest in piety than Krishna, the object, the Atma, the soul of all souls. So then this piety tendency, where attraction goes to other things, the objects of this world, ingredients of your worship, are stolen by that so-called auspiciousness. Its followers, this moha, the attraction for something other than the supreme, its followers, such as moha, are the same. And when that happens, the house then transforms into a prison to give the remaining punishment, since it gives intelligence opposite to surrender to your feet, moha, taking on a special nature by the false intelligence, becomes shackles for the feet. So where does it start? It starts with raga, or attraction for something other than Krishna. Prison. The attachment to those objects is a prison. And the moha that comes is like shackles on your feet, driven by false intelligence, including even material piety. Even though the prison house is destroyed, because raga and other products still remain, that is, because of inability to surrender to you, the chains remain. As long as these people, averse to Krishna people, are not accepted by you, they will remain in this condition. When they are accepted by you, when they attain you, who are the shelter of real raga, those material qualities cease to take shelter of the individual. Spontaneously, their faults disappear. The person becomes attracted to attaining Krishna. It's a compare-contrast kind of discussion. He then makes reference to a nice verse from Vishnu Purana that's saying the same thing. I can give the Sanskrit. It's the first line. Ya pritir avivekanam vishayeshu anupayani. Anupayani is a nice word. It's one of Krishna. It's one of Radharani's names. And it's meaning having a spontaneous attraction. She's spontaneously attracted to Krishna. So that's one of her names. Unintelligent persons have unflinching affection, anupayani, for the objects of sense gratification. Similarly, may I always remember you instead of affection for sense objects. Let me have affection for you, so that that same attachment applied to you never leaves my heart. Nice try. That's from Vishnu Purana. So there's the material attachment and the spiritual attachment. Thus, when the house is offered to you, it is no longer a prison. When moha becomes a part of prema, it is no longer a fault. Moha is a fault, bewilderment. But when Krishna sees Radha, or Radha sees Krishna, or all the inhabitants of Vrindavan hear Krishna's flute, they become bewildered. That's not a fault. That's a quality. The people of Braja are the crushed jewels of souls surrendered to you. How can people like me, Brahma, who touch the dust from their feet, desiring to attain something, attain a position like them? Krishna. They constantly serve me, though I cannot repay them. They are also faulty then. Oh, Krishna, attractor of all hearts, as long as they do not become your people. Now he's going back again to the sense gratifier people. There's this language used by our acharyas that Krishna considers the Vrajvasis as his people, like family. He's one of them. They're one of him. They're his people. And if one doesn't become like that, as long as souls do not become your people, and they do not attain your service, even devotees who have natural desire for eating, etc., while remembering you, thus their house become like prisons. When they sleep and forget you, they then become overcome with moha, out of extreme suffering. The Brajvasis have raga for you. The places of your pastimes, this is now in the spontaneous stage. Those who do have raga for you, their places of your pastimes become their prisons. They can't get out. They faint in prema, and this gives them suffering. This happens as long as they do not attain service to you. Although they faint, since they have surrendered to you, the people of Braja have no fault at all. That's the additional reading, or the ecstasy of love of God picture of where you repose attachment. Depending on where you repose attachment, it becomes liberating and ecstatic, or becomes bondage. Sanatana Goswami. Adayaha means anger and other emotions. The anger of the devotee, however, becomes a part of bhakti. By scolding the fools, the devotees lead them to deliverance. Oh, Krishna, directly the Supreme Lord. If their properties are for themselves, how is their attachment for enjoying matter, their welcoming guests, and showing affection to each other viewed? It is not seen as belonging to you. It is not seen as belonging to you, O Krishna, who gives complete bliss. To that extent, they offer respect to you. In other words, proportionate, there's objects, and seeing objects in relation to Krishna, and thus meant for Krishna's service and satisfaction. To that extent, that's liberating, and they're taken out of material suffering. Worldly attachment becomes a thief. How? by its nature, worldly attachment steals the gems of discrimination, determination, and other good qualities. Adayaha indicates that on attaining the state of material attachment, one develops anger, etc. The house, now it's objects again. The house and the conduct of a householder cause suffering by restriction, like a prison. Mutual affection, moha, causes lack of independence, like shackles on the feet. The meaning is this: devotees nourish their bhakti by attachment to things that they offer to the Lord. They spread bhakti by anger at persons engaged in not serving the Lord. As householders, they show compassion for all beings by serving the devotees. But this will not happen until they become devotees. Yavat na te janaha. Krishna considers, O Brahma, if they constantly serve me, though I cannot reward them the highest goal, is it wrong? Brahma replied, O Krishna, attractor of all hearts, as long as they do not become people of Braja, dedicated to your service, ne not te jana, dancing and singing with attachment, ragadaya, they will be like thieves, causing disturbance. The house will cause grief like a prison, false affection for devotees, moha, will be chains on the feet, causing lack of independence. Or another reading, attraction for Vaikuntha, ragadaya, the dwellings there, and affection for Lakshmi will be causes of disturbance and restriction. This is now the spontaneous side. It is all done by you. If all people worship you, what is the harm? In this condition, attachment to their bodies or animals is a thief, the house is a prison, affection for friends is shackles, as long as they do not become people of Braja, serving you with dedication. And this last kind of summarizes everything. It's much more simple. O Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. Now, it's all pretty intense or strident, pretty strong. But detachment is an essential part of spiritual progress. Detachment from the mood of material enjoyment, the mood of separate enjoyment. Is an essential part of spiritual progress. See it the other way. As long as one maintains material attachment, the idea of becoming an enjoyer somehow of objects of the senses and trying it in different ways, as long as that's there, spiritual progress doesn't happen, or at least very slow. Even if one is doing good and wholesome things, it's going to be quite slow or negligible. So detachment is important. However, attachment is natural because it's of the soul. attachment for the Supreme is natural because it's of the soul. So if you don't have attachment for the Supreme, there will be attachment to something else. You try to become detached from the something else without attachment to the Supreme. It's impersonalism. That's not at all satisfying. It's not sustainable. So then the real message embedded in this verse 36 we just read, and we'll start on 37 tomorrow. Attachment to Krishna, please. And if that, to the degree that that's weak, then there's other things. There's going to be another kind of attachment. And another kind of attachment results in the home becomes a prison, the affection for others becomes foot shackles. But the messages don't have, it's not a negation. It's not don't have affection for others or don't have a house. That's not the message. The message is when there isn't that affection, raga, when there isn't that affection for the Supreme Person, then it's illusory existence. It's a very unpleasant state of existence. A prison house with shackles and bewildered all the time. So it's simultaneous attachment to the Supreme that helps one become detached from the temporary or see the temporary in relation to the Supreme. That's the cultivation of bhakti. That's sadhana bhakti. But Brahma is at the aspiring for the prema state because he's already a good devotee. He doesn't need to start a bhakti program. He's already Lord Brahma. He's a very, very, very intelligent, very qualified person. But he's looking at the Brijvasis because some may say, because this was the prior discussion, some may say, look, these people are just doing worldly things. They have their families, they have their occupation, they have their paraphernalia, they have houses, it's just like worldly people. And, they're not greatly learned persons, or they're great yogis, and they're not sannyasis. So what's the big deal? So those are yardsticks for some kind of elevation, but the message we're to understand from all of this is the Brijvasi's singular attachment to Krishna is their singular great quality that brings all other characteristics that they may have to qualities rather than faults, to their outstanding character and their outstandingness, as opposed to just being otherwise worldly people. So they're role models for us. Keep coming back to that. Get the mercy of persons that have such bhakti as the residents of Vrindavan, and your bhakti can grow. Kind of the same theme. The language was a little sophisticated and a little elevated, but the message is quite basic and simple. Let's see if there's some discussion. You able to follow all this? 50%? 70%? 50%?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I wanted to ask about this lack of independence point, that when there is attachment to each other, that causes moha and there is lack of independence. So can you kindly elaborate little more on lack of independence?
Freedom, I'll say it bluntly, and it sounds contradictory. The greatest freedom is full dependence upon Krishna. And the more that there's dependence on others, then freedom is restricted. That is, real independence is restricted. Because my freedom, the full freedom, is like a really perfect example of this is directly in the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, he's free to travel anywhere. He has unrestricted visa and passport. He can go anywhere at any time. And what's what certified him to be able to have that freedom? Full dependence upon Krishna. So real independence is dependence on Krishna. And to the degree that there's dependence upon something else, then the real independence is restricted.
Yes,
Now, it's not a question of ashram, it's a question of what one is attached to, like Nanda and Jasoda. They're not Narada is a sannyasi and they're householders. You know, and he's a Vaishya and he's a king and he has worldly duties and all those things. Narada doesn't have any of those things. So it's not like Nanda and Jasoda have to give that stuff up and then they can become fully independent, like Narada, because he's a sannyasi. It's not ashram specific, it's consciousness. When there's attachment, this is Krishna consciousness. When there's attachment to that which is the source of everything, the Supreme Person, the lovable, most sweet object, Krishna himself, full independence, full freedom. Now, we're always dependent. Narada is dependent. Mother Jasoda is dependent. She can't bind Krishna unless Krishna permits her to bind Krishna. She's dependent.
Yes, Maharaj.
So attachment to the temporary in the mood of enjoying, that is material attachment. In the mood of enjoying, that is a shackle. Foot shackle, it's called here.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm understanding that it is a lot of internal work.
Yes.
So for my stage, I just need to understand that what could be my next step in my journey.
Okay. Now, all of these things that we're hearing, they're very lofty.
Yeah.
And we're not there. However, the teaching is that there are potencies in these messages that help us become inspired and cleansed and so forth, although we're not there. We're immersing ourselves in a very cleansing sound vibration that helps us have the strength and purity and clarity to make that next step.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you. That is very helpful.
Okay. How are we doing? You have something back there? Okay.
Krishna Guru Maharaj. Sorry. I have two questions. One question is that there was a distinction made between piety and Krishna,
Yes.
and that difference could be the difference of like cause and effect, if we can look at it that way, because Krishna is the cause and piety is the effect.
I've never heard that analysis before. Could you explain?
I mean, Krishna is the cause of piety.
He's the cause of everything.
Yeah.
He's
So
the cause of impiety. He's the cause of everything.
yeah.
He's the cause of all causes.
Yeah. Okay. So my question was, and I think you answered it. My question was, is there any difference other than just this? That
Rather than what?
Other than this difference that Krishna is the cause. I was trying to
I'm
understand.
not sure what you're getting at. What's behind your question?
The reason behind the question is, my understanding was, if Krishna is there, then piety would automatically be there.
Everything is automatically there.
And the other way around also I thought was true, that if piety is there, Krishna would be there. But it seems that that's not the case.
Not the case.
Okay.
Well, I mean, wherever Krishna is, its virtue is there. When the sunlight is on, there's no darkness. But darkness doesn't exist without sunlight. Sunlight means, or darkness means the absence of sunlight.
Yeah. So Krishna is the cause of all causes.
He is the cause of all causes.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
You're a shortcut to say Krishna is the cause and piety is the effect. Doesn't really hold, because everything that exists is the effect and Krishna is the cause.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. The second question is also related, in the sense that we did say attachment to Krishna and detachment to everything that is material.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. The material has to do with consciousness. Okay, we're in a house. It's not detachment from the house. It's detachment from seeing the house as an object of sense gratification, as opposed to paraphernalia meant for Krishna service, or an object meant for Krishna service, or this body, or take any one of the senses of the body. There's the material and there's the spiritual conception of the body and each of the senses. So there's the tongue, there's the material idea, and there's the spiritual idea, or the eye, or the ear. It's a consciousness question or consideration, factor, variable.
With this, I was going to a conclusion that if I try to build my attachment towards Krishna, my detachment to everything that is temporary and material would automatically come.
The material attachment will automatically follow.
Detachment would follow.
Material detachment will follow, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But, so that's exactly on the topic that you're bringing up.
Yeah.
Supposing you became a Brijbasi, like, one of Krishna's eternal associates. Is there going to be attachment to your kitchen?
No.
It's going to be spiritual attachment, because cooking for Krishna is what takes place there.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there going to be attachment to your children? Spiritual attachment, because they're for Krishna's service, etc. So the material portion, I'm being a little may sound like splitting hairs, but it's not. It's like the difference between dark and light. The material attachment will be mitigated by attachment to Krishna. But that doesn't mean no attachment. Then it's spiritual attachment. We don't become stones. We are sentient beings. The attachment is in relation to Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Upstairs, top of the stairs. You can come down. Okay.
Okay, I don't know how to start the question. Okay. Maharaj, can you tell me how to understand the line between self-worth and pride?
Okay. Nice question.
Thank you.
Very simple. The spiritual conception of self-worth is in relation to Krishna. My self-worth is because I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Worthy. Pride is no spiritual connection. The source of everything is deleted or covered, forgotten. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty good. Without the Krishna connection factor. That's pride. I'm at the center and the other is Krishna is at the center. Self-worth with Krishna is with Krishna at the center.
I'm able because Krishna made me able.
See?
I'm able because Krishna made me able.
Yeah. My worthiness is because Krishna put it there. I'm part of him because he's the supreme worthy. There's some worthiness within me. That's my self-worth.
Right.
That's spiritual conception. Now, we're not used to spiritual, we're used to the material one.
Yes.
So it's really hard to make that bridge, the adjustment, the transition.
Yes. So, what can be a quick remedy in those times when one is feeling worthless? And then, it's easier if I just say how I feel. So I feel a pull between worthiness and then feeling proud.
Well,
How to
it's the answer to there's no quick fix to it, but the answer is Krishna's at the center. You said it very nicely, very succinctly. I'm worthy because Krishna put whatever is worthy within me. He gave it to me. It's his. The worthiness is his. And so I can smile and feel spiritual pride in being part of Krishna's family, being Krishna's part and parcel. I'm part of Krishna's family, and I'm happy with that. That's spiritual pride. But it's spiritual self-worth. So your question, say it again, self-worth, it bridges over quickly into pride. It's probably entirely pride or mostly pride, because the spiritual conception for most of us is not well developed. It's weak or immature, and so whatever there's self-worth, it's of the ego kind or the pride kind. Mm-hmm. So now what to do about that? Go to the spiritual side. How do you go to the spiritual side? The process of going to the spiritual side is the cultivation of connectedness. That's yoga. Connectedness with the Supreme. And most effective of the different systems of yoga is the Bhakti system. And so you take Here's like a really simple one. Connect the tongue to Krishna. That's Rupa Goswami's teaching. And the tongue does two things. It makes sound and it tastes. So make that tongue make those kinds of sounds that are Krishna-related sound, and the tongue tasting things that are offered to Krishna. Krishna's mercy, Krishna Prasad. And then engage the tongue, and then you can feel purification and Krishna connection. By controlling the tongue, the other senses are more easily controlled. So that's just a practical point of how to get your foot in the door in the bhakti process. But because it's the bhakti process that can transform pride to true selfless self-esteem or self-worth. Lots of books out there in the marketplace about self-worth, because there's a lot going on in the world today about depression and all of those other negative things, negative emotions overwhelming people from a lot of different sources and causes. So there's no surprise if someone close to you or you personally get some wave of that hitting you or the person close to you. So that what's the solution? What's the remedy? What's the cause and what's the remedy? The cause is forgetfulness of Krishna. The remedy is make the Krishna connection again. So when you're trying to, back to your question, when you're trying to transition, you don't want to feel worthless, you want to feel worthy. So how to not get caught in pride as you're moving towards feeling worthy. It's the spiritual connection. It's the Krishna, connecting with Krishna. That's yoga, connecting with Krishna. Let me just share this with you. One of the last visits in Naperville was with a woman from the Czech Republic. And, she had some really innocent, nice questions. She's really into being a mother. She has 3 children. So she's really into being a mother for her children. And she didn't grow up with any tradition, any religious tradition. But she felt herself to be and still as a spiritual person. So she's now searching for something that can help her connect that innate spirituality with, something that then she can pass on to her children. Because she's wants to be a good mother for her kids. She said, meditation has helped me the most. I feel, when I do meditation, I feel that calmness and connection. She doesn't have Krishna as the object she's connecting this, because it's not devotional meditation, it's just meditation. So when she takes that meditation tendency and connects it with Krishna, she'll find something she wasn't finding before. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And so each one of us, taking this particular point that you brought up, feeling self-worth. Natural. You don't want to feel unworthy, you want to feel... So how to make that spiritual, which is what this lady was speaking about, being a mother. I want to be, I want to give to my kids something of substance, but I have to have that substance to give. So you put Krishna at the center, you make that Krishna connection, the self-worth or motherness or motherhood or whatever, because there's the object. But it doesn't have that connection with the spiritual source of everything. It's another material phenomena. Self-worth or feeling worthless, or pride, or feeling, I'm a failure, or whatever, I'm no good, or whatever. It's just the modes of nature kicking you around like a ball. So there has to be some connection.
I have one more
Yeah,
question. So, how to feel this particular emotion? So, I call it proud. Like, so, for example, my son, when he remembers Krishna's story, like he remember pieces from Krishna's story, then I feel proud and I want to show it to everybody. Like, see, he knows this, but then in the back of my heart, I'm like, is it okay to feel this? Like this, how to feel it? What is this feeling?
Well, it's mixed, because what's unmixed is Krishna is pleased. And whether other people know it or don't know it, Krishna is pleased. And that's my contentment.
Yes.
Now, if I want that other people should also make that Krishna connection, I may urge my son to go forward and tell the story, but not like a dog standing on his hind legs and saying woof woof. Not like a little show for others.
Yes.
So, but Krishna is pleased, and that others, because it was right in the text that we read, the purports, bringing other people to the position of bhakti that's a spiritual desire. That Krishna has given me the opportunity. It's who's at the center. If Krishna has given me the opportunity, I have a son. My son has learned some Krishna stories. This is part of my mother duties it's now by Krishna's mercy happening. And let my son associate with others so he can learn more and influence others, and I can like that. It's just for Krishna's service purpose. Then it's not pride, then it's service. Krishna's at the center.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, I tried to follow the Govardhan Parikrama classes. So by your mercy, I was able to learn. I was able to hear all the classes, the 4 classes.
Really?
Yeah, and I was feeling.
Okay, now try again. Now you are feeling.
Yeah, I was not feeling. I was feeling so much attached to when I was hearing from you. So it was a wonderful presentation, Guru Maharaj.
I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, I would love to hear from you again.
It's going to happen on the Chinese New Year,
Okay.
which in China is the 12th of February. I'm going to be in Detroit, and it's going to be a 4-part. There Friday morning, for the 12th is a Friday morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Friday morning, Saturday, Sunday morning, and then Sunday evening, their time. So it's just flip it over. And the news will be sent out. You didn't receive. Do you have that information? You forward it. You can hear it again live.
Sure.
You can send in questions.
Yeah, I was trying to make some notes, and I got stuck with the one of the Ras dance places, that is Nidhivan. So I heard previously about Nidhivan that people go there, and if they stay there at night, and even heard from you as well, Guru Maharaj, that they get mad or something.
Yes, that's Sevakunj specifically.
Sevakunj.
They don't allow people in there at night because they go mad.
So I wanted to understand, Guru Maharaj, what happens, if you can tell in brief, like
What happens? What for people that stay there?
Yeah.
There's no explanation that I'm aware of. They just they're unqualified, and because they're unqualified, circumstances are created where they have to leave.
But can they stay there during daytime?
Can what?
Can they stay there during daytime?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember you said
Because Rasa dance comes at night.
Yeah. Okay.
They lock the gate. But some persons hid to see what would happen, and they went mad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it's an everyday occurrence, but something happened one time at least. They don't let people stay inside.
So the rasa dance happened there already, you mean to say, Guru Maharaj? Or it still happens there?
They don't let people stay in, so there's no reoccurrence.
Okay. I remember you said the dust of that place is really auspicious.
Yeah. The whole of Vrindavan is like that. The whole of Vrindavan. Okay?
Yeah. And one more question, Guru Maharaj. if
Yeah.
you allow.
Yeah.
So it's relation to the morning class today, Uddhava Gita. And I tried to follow it again. And one thing that came to my mind, Guru Maharaj, I don't remember what happened exactly, but I got stuck like, I mean, Krishna's pastime is with Vrindavan as well as Dwarka. Then how it happened to be that Dwarka disappeared and not Vrindavan when Krishna departed from the material world?
Well, Dwarka was in the sea, and Vrindavan is not in the sea. So the city of Dwarka was built by Vishwakarma, but it was also withdrawn at the time of Krishna's departure. So similarly, I mean, Vrindavan, the land of Vrindavan is still there today, but we don't see the places of Krishna's pastimes like Krishna performed his pastime. We see Govardhan Hill, but for example, Govardhan Hill is shrinking. And there's the river Jamuna, but there's so much pollution in the river Jamuna. In other words, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is, when we go to a holy dham, it's like seeing oil on top of water. When you don't see the water, you see the oil on top of the water. So we don't see the dham, Vrindavan, or Navadvip, or whatever the dham is, because there's a covering, and the covering has to do with material consciousness. But when material consciousness is removed, then one can see Vrindavan as it is. But specifically the disappearing of Dwarka, well, that was just part of Krishna's plan, the manifesting of it and the withdrawal of it. He instructed. We heard he instructed Dwarka, send the remaining residents on Dwarka to Indraprastha for protection, because their protectors were gone.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
How are we doing online? Who's going to do the reading? Oh, right.
So Maharaj, two questions are there. First is from Girivar Dhari Das Prabhu. As a sadhaka, we always beg Lord for service, and Lords give service to purify. Is there way to understand which service is to purify and which one came from desire?
It's safe to assume, because we're mixed devotees, that there's a mix in a situation like this. So the main principle for you to consider is, what does the disciplic succession want of me? What is our line of disciplic succession want to be? What are standard activities that I can do? And then there's customized activities that I can do, and what's in line with our disciplic succession, and I do those things. Like, let's just take music as an example. Some people like music. And is it wrong, if you like music, to become absorbed in music made for glorifying Krishna? there may be some material attraction in that attraction from music, but the object is Krishna, and that material attraction by Krishna's mercy can become purified and become fully spiritual. So worry not about is it this or that, but that the intention behind your taking up activities that are in line with our disciplic succession, that you strive for purity. You strive for pleasing Krishna by those activities.
Next question is from Uttama Bhakta Prabhu. Is it technically possible to enjoy without mentality of enjoyment?
That's an intellectual question. That let me ask you, why are you asking that question? Or let me ask you, if you have the answer to that question, how is it going to help you advance in Krishna consciousness? I mean, we're conscious beings, so we're conscious of what our experiences are. So if there's joy, we'll experience joy.
That's it, Maharaj, online.
Okay.
Maharaj, sorry, is it okay to ask one question?
Yeah.
So Maharaj, long back in other class, you had described that Krishna's servitors, particular servitors were there, but I'm not remembering. So when they feel the feelings of ecstasy, they try to just conceal those feelings so that there is no hindrance in the service to Krishna. So that was the premise. And so I was just curious to understand that when those kind of ecstatic feelings were there, so Lord Chaitanya fell unconscious. So how was that possible for those servitors to conceal those feelings and still continue service?
The specific example given in Nectar Devotion is his cowherd boyfriend Daruka. There's different Darukas.
Yeah.
But Daruka was fanning Krishna, and while fanning Krishna, his ecstasy was interfering with fanning. So he was checking his ecstasy because he wanted to fan Krishna nicely. He wasn't interested in his ecstasy, he was interested in fanning Krishna nicely. In the case of the spontaneous ecstasies of Lord Chaitanya or his associates, Lord Chaitanya would strive to conceal them also, because he didn't want imitation people to imitate, but sometimes it was just overwhelming and he couldn't conceal anything. It just overwhelmed him. So there's different circumstances, but he was teaching us the mood of Radharani, and sometimes the mood of Radharani, she would carry on with her service, and sometimes she would also faint.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done. Yes? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.